I don't think a lot of people realize how much goes into the planning and development of a vineyard.
And I look at Sauvignon Blanc too, as it can be very transparent of the farming style.
A lot of people don't realize Sonoma County is 1 million acres. Makes us about the size of Rhode Island as a state.
For most people who are really into wine, being a wine dude, a wine nut, or whatever you want to call it, I think they all have a wet dream to make their own wine eventually.
I really have fun with doing my job, with doing wine, with being viticulturist.
You know, to stay out of the vineyard, I only have the shotgun for the bore, and I'm thinking, great.
As much as I love Chardonnay, I didn't want to spend my nights worrying about it and my days talking about it.
I worked 14 hours the day before I went into labor. I was determined to get most of that Chardonnay in
another beautiful sunny day in Napa Valley, in a room full of half crazy, half passionate people. I mean, how bad could it be?
We say, so drink the wine. That's kind of our motto here at Life Between the Vines. One of the cool things about wine, besides drinking it, is the people you drink it with. And the stories you hear and tell with wine all come together to make every bottle unique. Discovering and tasting wine shouldn't be a homework assignment. And we believe that the people who are closest to wine have the best stories. So open a bottle.
And welcome to podcast number 204. This week we feature Giovanni Ponchia of the Soave Consortium, Italy. Just a few weeks ago, we were invited to a tasting sponsored by the Soave Consortium of Italy, which took place at the Boarding House Restaurant in Chicago. It's rare when you attend a tasting featuring white wines only, but that's what made this visit intriguing. Master sommelier Evan Goldstein co-hosted the event along with Soave enologist Giovanni Ponchia. We spoke with Giovanni just before the start of the event and gained detailed insight into the wines of Soave, Italy. I'm here with Giovanni Ponchia, and you are with the Soave Consortium from Italy.
I'm a representative of the Soave Consortium. I am an enologist working there since 2005. And since then, I was involved in many things: experimentation, control of the production, and actually one of the things that I do more often is to go around the world to introduce the wines and the differences between the wines produced by our 75 different producers. It's an area located close to Verona, a beautiful and historic town, with a long history, not only for the architecture, for the culture, but also for the viticulture. There are two main districts specialized in white wines, Soave, and red wines, Valpolicella, very well known in the world. And it's an area quite particular because it's one of the few areas in Europe that is completely covered by vineyards. So there is no space for other cultivation. There is a huge density of planting of the vines that recall the Langhe in Piedmont or the Champagne area in northern France. Something quite unique and a paradise for the viticulture.
I like that, a paradise for viticulture.
Yeah, I call it a viticultural garden normally.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, when Tia and I were talking, and she set this interview up for us today, she said that your title as enologist is not necessarily the same consistency of title it would have here in the United States. Describe that to me.
Well, I finished an year of study that was under the University of Padova. It was a university diploma in viticulture and enology that I follow in Conegliano, that is the town with the most ancient viticulture school that we have in Italy. It's funny that there are more ancient schools of enology in Europe, for example in Austria, that somebody can ignore, but yeah, it's strange, but Conegliano is 140 years old as a viticulture school. The studies that I follow up were under the university, okay? So there is also a high school, but the studies that I followed when I was 21 years old was this kind of eater, because before I didn't used to drink wine or beer. I didn't enjoy it when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to actually come to, was how did you start? So you didn't grow up with alcohol, or it just wasn't something that was interesting to you?
Well, it's funny that my uncle was teaching viticulture sciences in the university, but I never had this kind of interest or passion until the year that I spent under the mandatory military service. It was sent with a particular corps of the army, specialized in mountains, high mountains. It's called Alpini, and they are very famous for the consumption of alcoholic things, since the beginning, since the birth of this really ancient and proud corps that dates back to exactly 1 century ago. And then I discovered this diversity, so many different wines in Friuli: Schioppettino, Ribolla, Sauvignon, Picolit, Pignoletto, a small universe, and I discovered that was existing this kind of school that studied this kind of sciences, and my thought was having experimented either kind of works in an industry of motorcycles before I was trying to study law, and having worked in supermarkets of great distribution, I thought I have, as Italian, to work for at least 40 years. No, it's better that I find something really interesting, enjoyable, that doesn't seem to be a job, a work. That's all.
I guess in the end, it doesn't feel like work if you love it, right?
Yeah, I was a bit lucky to enter in the 20 people admitted to this course, and then beginning from zero, I did my experiences, starting through the vineyards in Tuscany, coming back in Veneto and Friuli, doing experience that I lacked, that I missed in that period. And there is always something to learn about this wine every day. I always think that if I can codify from alpha, from A to Z, actually after almost 20 years I arrived to the B letter in what we can learn about this beautiful world.
How many years have you been doing this now?
I began my study in 1998. I finished in 2001. And since then, I've always worked in wine and viticulture world. So it's 15 years working, and 18 considering also the stages and experiences that I did during this kind of studies.
Did you ever have any opportunity or any interest in going to a different country and just learning a little bit of their winemaking techniques, whether it be the U.S. or France?
It was a dream. It was a dream for me while I was studying, and not only for me, but also for my classmate, to go in Australia. But in that period, we're lacking the net of a relationship between different schools located in different countries. So nobody of us was able to do this experience. It's something that I missed. I don't know if in the future I will be able to do that, but fortunately, at least I'm able today to visit several places and viticulture areas in France, in Germany, and I hope also to in the US, starting from Oregon. That is one of the dreams that I have to visit.
I have to imagine, though, when you go to these different areas, you're still learning, even though you're maybe not in there making the wine. You know, you pick up maybe tips, maybe different ideas.
Absolutely. For example, one of the inspiration that I have this March in Germany was about different kind of materials to do the maturation of the wines. No? So something that inspired me a lot was the use of, for example, casks made up in basaltic rocks, from entire rocks.
Really?
Yeah, really. That are actually using in the southern Austria, and also other kind of rocks, just like the granite, that are experimenting in Germany for some kind of white wines, just like a Sylvaner, just like Kerner, just like white varieties. And every year there is something that inspired me, and I'm fortunate that because some producer that travel with me is able to discover with me these things, and sometimes to experimentate in their own homeland, in their own winery, in their own cellar. Then there are always things to learn also about the trellisings and also about the selection of the varieties. There is a universe, and I'm discovering, for example, that normally what is selected by the man in order to reproduce in the vineyard, and an exam, an organoleptic exam in the blind tastings is often never able to arrive to the same level of the something obtained by the biodiversity. So without the hand of the man in the selection. We sometimes think that we are selecting the best variety, we are selecting the best clone, the best biotype, because the grape is more healthy, because the bunch is bigger, smaller. But at the end, the final results, in my experience, are always from what the nature managed by herself.
Have you seen in America, many wineries have gone for white wines to these concrete eggs? Are you familiar with that at all?
No, because when I come here in the US, no, because I'm always rushing through the towns.
That's the worst part, isn't it? You really, it's sort of like being on tour. Your time is at such a premium.
Being on tour, when I come here in the US, is always a rush through different towns, and sometimes I don't have time also to visit beautiful cities like, for example, today Chicago. Tonight I have to leave to come back, and I'm really disappointed. But I have the fortune 2 years ago to stay here more days to visit, and also New York City, and also Boston, and I loved a lot, and LA, San Francisco. But talking about the wineries, it's a bit difficult for me to go to visit them. I was to come back. It's not holiday when I come here.
No. I'm sure a lot of people think that's exactly what it is, but this is business for you.
Exactly.
I assume you're in harvest right now, right?
Yes, we are arrived probably in the 2/3 of the entire harvest, because the Garganega, that is the main variety that we cultivate in our area, it's a white variety, really ancient, is a late ripening variety, so normally the harvest began 15 September 15, it goes on until the end of October. Actually, we are really happy because 2016 finally is a great vintage.
Nice.
Finally, after 5 vintages of climatic changes with dry or too much rains, finally we came back to a classic vintage. So actually we are harvesting the Cruz, that are located in the middle high part of the hills, and we will arrive at the end about October 20.
Are you experiencing significant differences? You mentioned change a minute ago in terms of climate change in Italy?
Absolutely. Italy is subject since the beginning of the year 2002, 2003 to vintages really strange, but it's something that is not more surprising us. It's a fact. Climate is changing. We have to learn from our mistakes. We learn by vintages just like 2003 and 2012 that we have to leave a lot of leaves all around the bunches in the vineyards. We always throw away the leaves, and the final result was to cook the grapes. No, we learn that sometimes it's best to maintain the traditional training system. There will be always a reason if our grandfather trained vines in a particular way. There was always a reason, and we are discovering with these vintages are so far, so different one each other. I remember the last 3. 2016 anyway is a crossover between the 2015 that was really hot and dry, This year we had only 1 month without rains, July, and then the year after we had more of the 2 months completely without rains, 2015. 2014 we had rains from June until September.
Wow.
August, 25 days of rains. So it's obvious that the wines obtained will reflect these two vintages, and they will be completely different. 2014 will be a Nordic vertical acid vintage, and 2015 will be a overripe, sweet, concentrated, and a bit alcoholic vintage. No? That's because I'm happy of the last vintage, because it's a crossover between these two vintages. And what we have to do, we have to look at the past. We don't have to try to do the monkey, to copy other model of viticulture, more modern, more easy, more economic, that are able to be industrialized or mechanized, because it's not something that we can do in Soave. Everything here must anyway be done by hand, for a matter of training system and for a matter of steep slopes, because it's very risky to try to mechanize our area. Soave is a place of volcanic origin, so also in our area you can find terraces, just like in the Etna, just like in other Italian areas. We don't use the Girapoggio, or we don't use the Ritocchino. We add terraces everywhere, so it's something that you can't mechanize. Helpful to do the selection of the grapes, vintage by vintage. But we have always to look back to what in the past was did. In Soave there is a very ancient tradition, so if you ask to all growers that are not able to write or read, but they know exactly what they are doing in their vineyards.
I think that's interesting. Just to go back to the leaf issue, I assume those were years where you're looking at extreme heats.
Yeah, the extreme heat our area in 2011, 2012, and 2015. Best results come from the pergola. That is a particular training system that regard our area for the 86%. 86% of the vineyards are trained with this trellising that is typical of Verona, Soave Valpolicella, all along the river Adige, that preserve the bunches by the sun rays, and means that the grapes, the bunches grow up under a roof of leaves, a natural roof that is also a way to catch the sun rays, and is synthesized by a way to say of our old growers, I am happy if my bunch is able to see the light, the sunlight, but I'm not happy if the sun is able to see my bunches. Synthesized, very wise word.
Very wise. I like how you put that. So the wines themselves, obviously there's a number of, these are very specific grapes to the area, correct? Can you give me a few of the names of those grapes?
Garganega. Garganega. The Garganega is a white variety that is cultivated for about 10,000 hectares in Italy, and 2/3 of this variety, Garganega, are located in Soave. Arrived more than 2,000 years ago with the Greek population. It's a very ancient variety that is the mother of a lot of other Italian white varieties, just like the Trebbiano Toscano, just like the Catarratto in Sicily, that is the most cultivated variety that we have in Italy. It is the mother of the Greco di Pollino, Malvasia non-aromatic di Candia, and Mostosa, Epibotto, Marzemina Bianca. It plays the same role in the world of the white varieties in Italy that the Nebbiolo play for the red varieties. So it has a huge range of descendants. But decided to remain mainly in Soave because it's a neutral variety that is really able to express interesting flavors only if it's cultivated in soils, hills, and rich in minerals, just like in Soave. Soave, with the Colli Euganei, is the only area of volcanic origin in northern Italy. That's because in our area is able to express something different than the usual green apple, boring green apple that can express outside our area. And the Soave area, the Garganega gives hint of peach, apricot, pouring stone, after some year, hydrocarburic sensation, after 4 or 5 years. And is a wine really enjoyable also after 5 6 years. That's because of the particular kind of soil where it's growing actually, and 2/3 of the production in Soave in the whole Italy, 2/3 in Soave is something that explains better than other words what represent the Garganega for Soave and why she decided to remain mainly in Soave. You can obtain also nice sparkling wines. There is a huge ancient tradition also for desert wines that dates back to 1 millennium and a half. We have documents of 503 after Christ, in which there is a perfect description of the process of winemaking and production of the Recioto di Soave and Recioto della Valpolicella, that in that period were called acinatico. They were described, they growers, my king, were picking up the grapes from the domestic pergola, so already speaking about the trading system. And they put to dry and they crush and start to produce wine from these exhausted grapes when all the other normal wines are already finished, so in the spring. And they describe actually what is actually done to produce this desert wine that represent nothing for Soave, 0.5% of the production, only 300,000 bottles, but anyway is wine versatile. The only thing that we can produce with the Garganega is red wine, but for the rest, I have to say that the vocation of the Garganega is in the production of still white wine that gives to Soave the flagship, the first wine of place in Italy, talking about the white wines, with an average production of almost 58-60 million bottles every year.
That's a lot of wine.
Yes, compared with other American districts, it's not a lot, but compared with the Italian volumes, it's not so. But before the phenomenon of the Prosecco, and before other kind of DOC appellation that were born in the last 5 years, Soave represented the 5% of the entire production of Italian DOC wines. Wow. 5%.
I think one of the most difficult things for Americans is understanding Italian wines, and maybe to a degree the labeling. How would you, just to the average American person, explain Soave to them in terms of why would they want to drink it? What would be interesting to it? That's a bad way of putting it. Let me rephrase that. What would make it interesting to them to understand that wine?
To understand, well, Soave, I know that Americans and also many other countries, and me too, often, are selecting wines following the varietals, okay? So Riesling, Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio. Soave is mainly made up with the Garganega, at least 70%. I can use 2 words to explain Soave: versatility and drinkability. Versatility because you can use Soave as aperitif to couple it, match it with hams, starters, appetizer, fresh fish. And drinkability because it's not a wine that gets your mouth tired, just like some other aromatic wines that could be Gewürztraminer, that could be a Muscat, that could be, imagine, one aromatic wine. So it's a wine that normally you finish the bottle with an average alcohol level between 12 to 13. With a few flavors, but very clear to be identified, with a good acidity that leave your mouth always clean, and it's a wine that can stay also with the ethnic cuisine. I paired with the Thai cuisine, with the Southeast Indian cuisine, with the sushi, with the sashimi. It's funny to couple it with many kind of foods.
As far as pricing on these wines, and I know we're tasting, how many wines are we tasting today?
We are tasting 10 wines in a blind tasting and 7 more during the lunch. The range of the price on a wine shop of these wines is between $14 in the wine shops until $30 for the cruise selection that are released on the market after 2 years of maturation and aging in the cellar, and are wines that are enjoyable in the first 4, 5, 6 years, maintaining always a good freshness. So our wines are not expensive, completely not expensive, with a very interesting relation between quality and price. There are many wines awarded by the most important wine guides featuring today, and wines that sometimes are a bit different one each other because of the changing of the soils. Are wines that are able to reflect in a strong way what happens if you cultivate the Garganega on a volcanic soil or in an area with the limestone, because we have these two main kind of soil in Soave, and it's a nice game to try and blind taste it to understand the origin of one of each other.
It's a good challenge for us. As far as the distribution, where our listeners could find these wines, obviously we're here in Chicago, so I assume they're available here, but are they largely available in the United States?
Depends by the brand. So there are 75 producers on the consortium. There are brands that are very well distributed because they have national distributors. So you can find in 50 different states. In the US, in Chicago, you can find about 8, 10, 12 different Soave. In the US, it's really important the role played by the distributor, and it's something decisive. You can have a very good wine, but if the importer believes in something else, it's difficult to let the people taste. But normally it's a wine in which you can believe, affordable, and here in Chicago, I think that at least 10 labels are available. So.
Sure. Very affordable. Those are very good prices. Americans would like that for sure.
It's we say a bargain sometimes. A great business for your wallet. So the price is really important also for us in Italy, and the starting price influence also the final price on the shelves, and to have such quality in about 15-20 bucks bottle gives you the possibility to enjoy and to have dinner at home without paying too much attention to what you are cooking, and enjoying in a, we say, way sereno, in serenità, in a peaceful way. It was normally finished in a few minutes. Remember, the word drinkability, the first quality of the Soave, drinkable.
Excellent. For our listeners, if they would like to find out about you online, is there a general website for Soave?
Yes, there is the internet site www.ilsoave.com. Il Soave.
Can you spell that just so they have that?
ILSOAVE.com. And then we have a couple of internet pages, Soave US and Soave Wine for the American people. And then we have Il Soave page on Facebook for the Italian followers. And digiting Soave, you will have a lot of results. We have also Twitter. And you can get a lot of information from our internet site that is full in maps, in information about the producers. And my advice is always to come to Soave to visit it, because it's not bad. It's between Venice and Verona, that are two really nice towns. And it's 20 minutes from Verona and 40 minutes from Venice. It's in the middle. It's an area full of castles. And that's because probably Romeo and Juliet history was probably happened in the Soave area, close to Verona, to Vicenza. It's an area really peaceful, no noise, no industries, only vines and medieval castles, enchanting place.
I know there's a lot of people here that like to talk to you, and again, being here in Chicago at the Boarding House Restaurant, I thank you for taking the time and chatting with us.
Thanks for you. It was a pleasure.
Safe
I have
travels.
to go to work. Bye-bye.
Learn more by visiting ilsoave.com.
Thanks for listening, and remember to like us on Facebook. Also, check out our YouTube channel.
Life Between the Vines is produced at Fifth Floor Recording Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Produced and edited by Ray Pfister. Theme song and original music written and recorded by Tim Dondarevo. Our host is Kay Paskoff. Web design by Jenny Holland. Our graphics and website specialist is Lawton Hall. Our web geek is Dan Gieshin. Photos by Jeanette Hernyak. Copyright 2016.